Good morning. I'm Kathy Davis. Welcome to the September 14th, 2023 Inspiring Author Conversations. Today we'll be speaking with Pooja I'm trying here. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Arshanapally. I think I might have gotten it. We're going to be talking about building your personal brand through social media and AI, artificial intelligence. Before we welcome Pooja, I want to first remind everyone of a few logistical details. The call is being recorded. Your presence at these meetings serves as your permission to be seen in those recordings. Please mute yourself if you've not already done so. You'll notice your chat button down at the bottom of your screen. If you have any questions while we're going through the conversation today, please drop those in to the chat and I'll make sure they get answered. And we promise to end the call around 12:15 at the latest, so we can all get back to business. Our theme for this year is growing your business by the book. Each month, we interview experts who share their expertise and knowledge to help authors grow their business. Please help me welcome Pooja. Pooja is a social media marketer specializing in helping nonfiction authors harness the power of social media to build a thriving community, develop a compelling personal brand, and access new opportunities to establish them as experts in their respective industries. She has a passion for helping others succeed. Pooja also offers strategic guidance on leveraging social media platforms to maximize visibility, engage audiences, and convert followers into customers. Welcome, Pooja. So I will let you officially mention your first and last name because I know you'll pronounce it correctly.
I think you pronounced it correctly. My name is Pooja Arshanapally, so it was correct.
Oh, awesome. Yay. I did my homework. So we're going to be talking about social media and how it pertains to authors. And Pooja is one of our authors in, what is the name of the anthology that you're in?
Perfectly Imperfect.
Perfectly. And that launches October 5th. So that's
Yes.
coming up. We're just in the final details of that. So tell me what you love about social media.
I would say so actually how I started on social media, I'm 27 and I think in my generation social media has always been we started in social media, or like I think our generation was the in between of playing outside versus being online. And so when I started in social media, I was a sophomore in college when I started an Instagram account, and I just posted travel photos. I just did it for myself. And then I started realizing all of my friends and family started recognizing me from my Instagram account. And I accidentally branded myself without even knowing what a brand was at the time. And so for me, I think social media has a huge impact on how people perceive you, even if it's true or not, because people thought I was like this travel expert or this travel like person, and I was like, I batch a lot of my content. I'm not traveling that as much as people think I am, but because I was posting consistently, people perceived me as that.
That's fascinating. I know one of our vendors, our technology guy, I always have to ask where he is because he and his wife are traveling nomads, and I think they might be in Belgium this week. I'm not sure. It's always fun to hear where he's been, but I see his posts on social media, and it's, you think, wow, he lives such a fascinating life. So how did you decide to move from being a user of social media into being someone that actually can be seen as the expert?
So like through that account, I think a lot of people started perceiving me as like a traveling nomad. But I didn't see that. And then I was then started looking at like hashtags, or started looking at my analytics. And I think from there then on, I was like trying to test certain things of like, okay, if I put this out, what would happen? And I think from then on, I was more interested on like the analytics and like the different types of results that came from the certain posts. And then I started working with different marketing companies who just needed like social media, like they just needed their social media to be taken care of. So I was working underneath them and helping them with their social media as well. And that also intrigued me, and helping other brands and companies with their social media.
And I'll just remind everybody, if you're not already on mute, if you could do that, that would be great. So now that you're involved in social media as a producer, as someone that does this for other people, what is it that what do you find that people need to learn the most about social media?
I think that people in general, when they don't really know where to start, they're just overwhelmed with the amount of information or the different types of trends, tactics, and all those things. I would just try to simplify it as much as possible. Just start posting. I know that's such a simple thing, but you don't have to be good at it to start. Um, and just create one post and just start. And I think that's what limits a lot of people because they don't feel like they're good enough or qualified enough to create a post.
Most of the authors that we work with are on social media, and typically, which social media platforms are you suggesting that they go on, that they make sure that they're on?
So, I think it depends on the type of book that you're trying to promote and the audience. Just trying to figure out where your audience lies on based on the platform. Specifically for nonfiction, I know that like LinkedIn and Facebook, and then sometimes Twitter are usually good, depending on the type of book that you are trying to promote. I would say LinkedIn is more professional, um, more B2B businesses. It doesn't have to be specifically B2B, but it's more professional. Facebook is more like family and friends because I think the most people who are connected with you are our friends and family. And then you also have the opportunity to connect through groups, connecting through Facebook groups as well to reach a new audience. Twitter, I think, is more political. So if you have like a political book, that could also work to your advantage. But I think also like these are just guidances of the different types of platform. Another way is to look through your analytics and see like what is working and what isn't. I think that is also a good indicator of like what platforms you should probably be on or focusing on.
I know one of the other benefits on Facebook for the author is that they can create an author page from their original personal page. And that way it allows them to kind of separate those author messages from their personal family messages and then invite everybody they know to follow them or join them on their author page. So of the authors that I know you're experiencing the whole anthology process right now, and of the authors that you're working with on social media, how often should they post and what kinds of things should they post? Where does somebody start?
So I think it depends when it says when you ask the question, how often should you post? I think it's if you are doing it yourself, um, I would try to be consistent is how much I would ask yourself, uh, what type how much is creating one post that is like good quality can I do in a week without like feeling like I reduce the quality. So because you want to have quality content and also consistency when and then be able to be consistent on that. So I I can't give you like a good answer, especially when you're starting out, but I know that just putting out content for the sake of putting out content is not going to resonate with a lot of people. And you want people to, because there's so much content that's getting put on these platforms that you want it to stand out. Compare it. You don't want people to just scroll on by. You want people to read your content and interact with the content. So I would first start on what is something that people are going to read and stop. And then once you get good at creating those type of content, then just try to add on or get a little bit more or create more posts. Just I would probably just focus more on the consistency of just getting like a post out there.
I know Kim Carr, she's on the call today, and one of the compliments that I share with people, Kim is a great storyteller, and I think a lot of people follow you on your Facebook page because they can't wait to hear the next story about one of your critters on the farm. And I think it doubly enhances the fun because you entertain them and engage your audience by, I got to name one of the new calves one day, and you hold these little contests and name the new calf. And the calf that I got to name is named Macaroni. And I can't remember the ancestry lineage there as to why Mac was a good name for this calf, but it's always a lot of fun. One of the other stories that I tell, one of our other authors who doesn't happen to be on the call today, but she did a nonfiction / memoir. She has a special needs child, and he's close to turning 30 now. It was one of those where originally, they tell you when they're very young, they may not live to age 5, and he was able to celebrate many birthdays after that and is still celebrating. But one of the things that she did that I find works really well is she started posting on Facebook about her book while she was still in the editing phase. And she actually created this acronym called But Yet Another Book Report. So it was BYABR. And she would kind of warn everybody and say, okay, I'm getting ready to give another BYABR about my book. And today, and if you're bored of hearing about this, feel free to tune me out now. But today I met with my cover designer, and we got to look at 3 or 4 different designs. And she did a play-by-play all the way from that initial editing stage all the way through to the very end, and still continues, but all to when her book was published. And what I noticed that it did was it created this anticipation in her audience to actually go look for her postings on Facebook to see what the next thing was that she had done. And it I think it served her really well, is that by the time her book was published, people were really excited about, oh, where do I get a copy? I'm ready. I need to read this book that you've been working on the last 6 months. So that was kind of a fun strategy on her part. Is there anybody in the audience today that perhaps wants to share something that they have done or they have used? Just click or raise your hand. I'll try and notice you, or click your reactions button and use your hand raised that way, or drop it into the chat and we'll make sure we get it in the chat. So I have a question here. So this is to Pooja, do you have any experience you could share with TikTok or Book Talk, and what genres of books do you recommend to be on those platforms?
So I do have experience. I would say what I've noticed on Book Talk is a lot of young adults books are usually on it and being shared. Not saying that nonfiction can't be on TikTok, because I've known there's a lot of self-help books as well that has been shared on TikTok. I think what genres, I would say normally what I've seen is more like fiction based TikToks, but what I would recommend is I know that TikTok has definitely changed the trends, where a lot of the types of like that short-term content or short-term video has been used to repurpose on other, like Facebook has also wanting people to do short-term videos, as well as Instagram has now wanting people to go on short-term video. So I think like being able to like use some of TikTok's types of like trends and algorithms, it definitely does influence other platforms as well, is what I've noticed.
And Lisa Kelly, author of several books, she says here, Lisa, I tell you what, I'm just going to unmute you and where are you? Julie, do we have Lisa unmuted?
I just
Lisa?
did it and I think I'm
Okay,
good.
awesome. Can you share what you just typed in, please?
Yeah, so my fourth book was a cookbook and I collected recipes from football players. And so in the 50 days leading up to the release of the book, each day I would post a picture of the guy and what his recipe was. Obviously, I wasn't sharing any of the recipes, but just kind of teasers of, oh, here's the cheesecake and here's Coach Holtz's pumpkin cake to get people excited for the launch. And then with my third book, each chapter is a different athlete story. So that I would post a snippet, like a paragraph or two from each chapter in the 30 days leading up to the launch, just so that people had enough of the story that they wanted to read more.
Awesome. Great suggestions. And let's see, Suzanne, you have a comment. Please jump in.
Well, I think my book did just publish in July, and I think, I'm obviously the really old school, no social media person, and realizing that I had to get into it. I have a grandson that is 20 and studying that, and he's helped me some, and I've had some other avenues. What I was confused about or thought about, and maybe I'm wrong on this, it just seems like I'm basically just marketed to my Facebook friends and my business page. For some reason, I've heard all these algorithms and all these different things that go further out in the world that get your stuff out there. But I don't understand that part, or I don't know how you get to that part where you're not always just marketing or posting, out to your friends. Now, I have seen a little bit with Instagram, but maybe I'm just missing something as far as how I'm supposed to be doing that. And I realize I'm not the algorithm person, and I know that there's companies and people that do that, but how do they do that? I mean,
What is your book about? What is your book about, Suzanne?
It was inspired. It was a poem that the Lord gave me, and from that, each verse became a chapter. So it's very small, very tiny little book. But I would say it's really for anyone, but for anyone that really wants to deepen their relationship with God and knows that their time matters. So it's been really well received for anybody that's read it. But I guess that's where I'm not knowing how do you get it to people that you don't know?
What's next? Yeah. So I have some ideas on that, but I'll let Pooja, you want to jump in here?
Yeah, so I would say for Facebook, you are correct in the sense that it's right now, like if you just create a post, it's going to be shared to your family and like the people in your connections. I think for Facebook, in order to get into a new audience organically, creating content that is more shareable encouraging other people to share your content will get them into a new audience. And then for Instagram, I think a lot of people use stories. And that's like highly rated, and that's how people get into a new audience as well. But I know that Facebook and Instagram also use a lot of paid ads as well. But I don't have much experience in paid ads, but I know that a lot of people do use to get more reach as well.
Lisa mentions in the chat that a couple of things. Her third book, each chapter is a different athlete story. And I'll mention that Lisa does a lot of books with the basis of Notre Dame, which is her alma mater. So she has a huge audience just within that group itself. Now, on this particular third book, she did post a snippet of each story leading up to the book release. And Lisa also says that she did have some paid posts on her author page to reach beyond her circle. So that must be Facebook. What I saw a poet do she's out of the UK, and I saw her grow from 1 book to 5 books during the pandemic. And what I saw her do was at least once or twice a week, she would post a part of a piece of, just like Lisa said, she was doing a piece of a snippet out of the book. But with that snippet, you may want to also tell a short personal story, kind of mirror what Kim Carr is doing, and tell a personal story and how that snippet affects you personally, kind of like opening yourself up and letting people get to know you as a real person. What I noticed with this woman, her name is Donna Ashworth out of the United Kingdom. I shared several of her posts because they were quite inspirational and motivational. And I think that's how she started gaining her additional followers. She's now up to 5 or 6 books. It's pretty amazing. She became international bestseller out of the UK on just poetry. And that's really hard to do. So I have a question I guess it's from Suzanne. So is the author page just like another business page? Pooja, you want to answer that one?
So yeah, I would say like similar to LinkedIn, how you have a company page. It's similar where like that's like a company page or a business page, and it's separate to your profile page. And so I would say like if it's I want
I was
someone
just going to say, but you go to your personal page and you can create your author page straight from that. It's like creating a second page just for your author stuff.
correct.
Yeah. Terrific. Any other suggestions that people would want to share, or something that you have tried and found success with? Okay, we'll hop on. I know we have several authors on here, and we have a broad range from children's books to memoirs to novels on today's call. This is awesome. So is there a particular time that you have found, depending on the genre of book, that is best to post? Whether it's so for example, let's just take we mentioned a cookbook earlier, so let's kind of talk about that. What might be some good times or places or media to post that cookbook?
I guess it depends on the type of cookbook, what type of recipes. And then also I would probably base it during like the holiday season or any holidays that involve like food or different, especially like Thanksgiving. If it was like the food related to Thanksgiving, it would be easier to market it during that time because people are more likely going to be looking for recipes. So I think it goes back to your target audience and understanding when do they buy, when would they buy a cooking book, and try to work backwards from that. And like what are the steps that makes them inclined to buy a cooking book, and try to find those places that they would want to buy, or like what are the reasons for them wanting to buy a cookbook.
Lisa has another good suggestion here. She set up separate accounts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram just for her author book promotions. Suzanne, the other thing that I remember this poet did was that at the bottom of each of her posts, she would put a link to her books on Amazon. She would put a link to her author page because she had more than one book, and that it drives traffic to Amazon. Or if you have your books on your own website, then put that link to your website where they can buy them there. Terrific. Are there any other questions? I want to remind everybody to make sure and drop those into the chat. So the other topic that we had mentioned, Suzanne, did you have another question?
Yeah, so when you were talking about everybody has the pages, so does that get confusing at all? Like you've got all the different pages for your personal and your business. Like I also have health insurance business. I have, business page for that. So I've always wondered how that all meshes together. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's just separate.
I think it really depends on like what you want. Because like some people, they want to have a business page because they don't want to put their profile, they don't want to mix their business with their profile account. Or for example, like let's say they're on LinkedIn and they have a job, they don't want to, if they're currently working at a job and they want to have the separation of their like separate company versus the full-time job that they have. But I think if you want to promote your stuff, trying to build a big audience is probably the key. Because I think like when you have like so many like pages, it can get confusing on like where you should promote or where you should spend your time. What I would give advice is like, where is your core audience?
Mhm.
And that's where you should be promoting.
And how long of a window of time do you have from the time a book is published to really promote it and get it out there? I mean, is there a certain length of time that all of a sudden the book's just been like kind of out there too long and you need to write another book, or I don't know, do they have a timeout time?
So are you saying like what time you should be promoting it before the launch? Is
Well,
that
let's just, yeah. So, we promoted a little bit before, but how long do you have? Someone told me you only have like 6 months. And then, for it to be really
Yeah.
relevant.
In
Yeah.
the book industry, sorry about the dog in the background. In the book industry, you want to create what kind of like a roller coaster of buzzes, and your buzzes are at the peak of that roller coaster. So what you'll want is sorry about that. What you'll want is a buzz every 6 months or every few months. So it's really part of that pattern and part of that path that you want to think ahead and say, I've sold this many books in the first 6 months. Now it's my turn to go out and get a whole bunch of new people that will follow me. Or, you want to create new excitement about every 6 months. And it
Okay.
doesn't mean that you need to go necessarily write a new book, although that is one way to create excitement. But perhaps there's another target audience that you could pick and choose upon that would take and create that new buzz for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Hope that helps.
Yeah.
So, with all of this, one of the other things, let's see, Roger had okay, so Roger's talking about how do I post? So that's probably, Roger, something that we could do offline. And I can show you how we can handle that in a real simple method. And then, Shannon, let's see. Shannon, you want to just pop in here?
Sure. So you had just mentioned earlier that using Instagram stories can really increase like new followers and people to your content. And my question is just around, do you have some best practices for using stories? Like if I'm posting pretty regularly an Instagram post, a picture or carousel of pictures, and I share it to stories, what do I do? Who do I tag? What hashtags do I use? What's important to go up there? Or is it just new content that's not shared on Instagram somewhere else?
So,
Oh, go ahead if you
no, I was going to, Pooja, this is more up your line.
Okay. So what I usually do for like stories is I post like whenever I have like scheduled posts, I usually always like try to repost it so I can get people to go back to my profile link. So that's like one way I help. Another parts is like a lot of people want to see your life. So whenever I go to like I collaborate or I go to speaking events or things like that, I usually put that on my stories. And then I always also tag the location of where I'm at, or like to tag like whoever I'm like collaborating with, or like an event space or a different, like, let's say if I was at a specific conference, I would tag the conference and put a hashtag to have it like for the purpose of it getting repurposed onto their platform. And so then they will also have a new reach where I'll get a newer audience going to going from their platform to my platform as well. And that's how I leverage stories.
Okay, thank you.
And that kind of leads me to the next question that a couple of people have touched upon is, what are hashtags worth it? Do you still use them? What do we do with them? Where do we find them? And tell us a little bit about hashtags.
Okay, so I would say if you are just starting out, or I wouldn't say like, I think hashtags are important. I don't know if I think you should first focus on the content first and then use hashtags as like the second part of it, because hashtags are really good for getting found to a new audience. But once people get to your, like, if people find you, then you also have to have good content for people to want to engage with the stories or the posts that you create out. But I think for hashtags, just to give you a couple of pointers, you want to get into like the sweet spot where it's not too broad, but it's also not too specific. So I would, whenever you like look up hashtags, I would start looking at your competitors or people who do something similar to you and look at the hashtags that they're using and see like they usually, like specifically on Instagram, they give you like how many people are viewing it per day. They give you like a metric of like how many people are viewing this. And if it's like 1 million people are viewing it, it's a very broad hashtag. And I would try to go a little bit more specific, and try to be a little bit more specific so people are trying like your target audience are able to find you. Because if you're going too broad, then there's just like a huge huge volume of people who are posting on that specific hashtag where you may not be able to get found as easily compared to a more niche hashtag.
That makes sense. Yeah. Well, I know one of the things we also mentioned that we were going to be talking about today was artificial intelligence. So tell us your perspective on artificial intelligence. I will say up front before we start, though, one of the things that with our authors, our new policy is to use artificial intelligence for research, but to please reword it in your own words, in your own voice, if you're going to put it in your book, because both Amazon and Ingram now have bots that can detect artificial intelligence or what they think might be artificial intelligence, and they'll flag your book. If you get flagged more than once, you run the risk of having your account closed. So with that, Pooja, give us your impression of artificial intelligence and how we might be able to use it to our benefit.
So when it comes to AI, I have experience in ChatGPT, and for me, I mostly use it for content creation and just being able to make things fast, to do things a lot faster than I normally would have. When they say like ChatGPT, I think it's the G. I know there's GBT, but I think it's generative AI is when I think that's the category ChatGPT is. And to put that in simpler terms, it's ChatGPT is giving you outputs that it's just that it's a prediction of what they think you're going to conclude with. So it's not the same as me going to, let's say if I wanted to get better at math, it's not me going to a math teacher who spent a lot of time in that field, asking them a question and them providing an answer. It's someone else who is pretending to be a math teacher and predicting this is what they assume that a math teacher would say. So it's not the same thing, but it's a prediction of what that person might ask. So it, like for ChatGPT or any type of AI tool right now, what you put into the prompt or is only as good as the output. So being able to create better questions or create better prompts or more clear and concise prompts will provide a better outcome and like save you a lot more time when it comes to creating those tools or whatever process you're trying to create.
I know some of the ways that we've seen authors use ChatGPT is they may say, what are the top 10 reasons that someone would want to buy my children's book about, and then they fill in the blank. And then you'll get those top 10 reasons, and that can sometimes help you craft a marketing message. Let's see, Kathy Bernard, welcome. I saw you hop on. Thanks for being here. So Kathy Bernard is a LinkedIn expert Kathy, if you're near your microphone, you want to hop in here and just tell us what you're thinking?
Oh, I was just commenting that LinkedIn used to allow you to follow all the hashtags that you want. So say you would follow hashtag project management, hashtag projects, whatever, and they just turned that off or are in the process of turning it off. So if people include hashtags in their LinkedIn posts, people who would follow that hashtag will now no longer automatically see what they're posting. I used to love, you could put hashtag St. Louis and then people could see what you were posting about St. Louis. So I think LinkedIn does stupid things. And so
Oh,
I still include hashtags, but just know that people will have to actively go out and put hashtag St. Louis in the box to be able to see an article that you may have posted about St.
Yeah.
Louis on LinkedIn.
terrific. Thanks for sharing that. Is there anyone on the call today that has used ChatGPT or any other artificial intelligence for their research or blog or anything? Mary, sure, hop in here, please.
Yeah, it's pretty useful for possibly I know this is going to sound funny, but if your audience is different, like kind of what you were saying about marketing choices and stuff. So if your regular writing is a little bit more serious, that you can literally write in ChatGPT, how do I say this more casually? Or what's a better way to say this to a particular audience or something like that. It's nice. It's nice getting somebody to say, hey, you could say it like this. You don't always have to use it, but it is nice to generate. It sometimes can be used like a friend that you lean over and talk to. I know that sounds so silly, but like, hey, how would you say this? And so I try to engage with it more of in a chat aspect of it, to kind of build ideas or things like that. So yeah.
Terrific. Thanks for sharing that. Shannon.
Yeah, so I recently just started using it. I heard somebody say, it might have been you, I can't remember. Somebody said earlier about having books on different topics or different businesses and really trying to figure out what voice to be using and how to separate those. So I used it to create a personal brand strategy. So I put into ChatGPT, I am Shannon and I value this and I focus on this every day. And here's what I want to do. And can you create a personal brand strategy for me? And what it spit out, I had been trying for 2 years to convey into words, and it
Wow.
was pretty amazing. So don't underestimate what it could feed back to you. And sometimes it's just giving you the strategy and the organization you need to understand for yourself what you've been trying to say all along.
That's amazing. Yeah. So Pooja, how have you used it? Oh, did we lose you? No, there you are. Oh, go ahead.
So I've used it. I think for me, like one thing that I've used it for a lot of like my social media content creation, but I think it's also like in the same way, like helping generate ideas and help me kind of use it as like a partner to like give me feedback. Or if I did this all by myself, if I did social media all by myself without content creation, I realize how much time I'm thinking about certain things where I can just plug it into ChatGPT and just have endless amount of ideas to start from. So I don't have to waste a lot of time, where I can just continuously just put things out and just test and see like what type of ideas work well, or what type of certain topics work well. And so I just don't have to continue to like have a lot of wasted space on figuring out different things, where I usually say it usually eliminates the rough draft, or like a lot of the rough like spaces or things that I normally would have been being able to do. But now that ChatGPT has kind of eliminated a lot of those things.
Awesome. see Kathy Bernard, I see your hand up.
Yeah, so I set up, you can set up on like Chrome, you can set up Google Bard, B-A-R, like the Shakespeare Bard. And what's nice is once you turn it on, like every time you type something into Chrome, it will spit out a whole answer for you in like written form of what you ask. It's so much easier than trying to dig around all on Google and that. And I also do it on Bing as their AI, and they are amazing. It's just such a good way to a thought starter for art, blog posts or articles or anything, and it thinks of things that you didn't think of.
Didn't I see something in the news this week that there was a group that included the guy that invented ChatGPT plus the Facebook guy, and I'm not remembering names right now, and then all these high level social media people were having this big meeting about how to kind of control this monster that they've created now.
And what I fear is for people that do writing for clients, it's going to speed it up even more. It's been so, you have to write so fast now, and now it's going to make it crazy, I think. So,
Yeah.
but that one thing we're going to find out. But I do think that it's going to be replacing writers and that in some ways.
Yeah. Thank you for that input. So I want to make sure that we get everybody's questions answered today that you may have kind of brought with you regarding AI or social media. If you have additional questions, please either raise your hand physically and make waves so that I can notice you, and or raise your hand with the reaction symbol down below. I want to make sure we get that covered. And Pooja, I know that you have a gift for everyone that's listening today. Can you tell us a little bit about your free download, your free template?
So it's more to help, like, for anyone on LinkedIn. It's just 3 different ways on how to track or position yourself. Especially for authors, it's more to help position yourself or help get your book out there and have a brand presence, to make yourself an authority in the space that you're currently in.
And what I can do here in a second, I'll add that link into the chat, as well as when we send out the follow-up with the link to the recording, we'll make sure we include that, as well as information on how to connect with Pooja in case you have any questions. I noticed Roger dropped off, but I'll make sure he has your name for all his social media questions. And any other questions before we hop off today? Kathy, I notice your hand is still raised, but it may be left from the last question. Are you good, or you have another comment? You're good. Okay, cool.
I'm good. Sorry.
Not a problem at all. I do want to thank everybody for joining us today. We had a lovely crowd, and remind everybody that we'll be back on Thursday, October 12th, 11:30 a.m. And we'll be talking with Amanda Rose Ego about public speaking secrets that authors need to know to sell more books. So that'll be a fun conversation. She is a speaker, trainer, and coach out of Florida that I met. And thank you again for being here today. I hope to see you next month. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Thank you, Pooja.
Thank you. This was really helpful.
Bye-bye.